Welcome to the third episode of the third series of the Tessa Talks To podcast, where I've been chatting to musical couples about what music means to them. In this episode, I'm chatting to Anna Patalong and Ben Nelson, both opera singers touring the world and parents to 2.5-year-old Scarlett. Ben made his Royal Opera House debut in 2013, and since then has gone on to perform in opera houses around the world. Recent highlights include performances of Britain's Gloriana at Teatro Real in Madrid, Carmina Burana with the Gulbenkian Orchestra in Lisbon, as well as at the South Bank Centre in London. Anna also made her debut at the Royal Opera House in 2013 and has gone on to critical acclaim performing around the world, recently in New Zealand as Violetta in La Traviata, and closer to home with Scottish opera in Pagliacci and as Brigitte in Iolanta at Opera de Paris. Anna and Ben, thank you for being with us today and sharing a little bit of what goes on behind the scenes as in your busy opera parenting, scheduling world. How did you both come to opera? Because in some ways it's quite a closed world. So how did you both find your way in?
Mine was pretty much by accident, really. I'd sort of always been musical, really keen on singing, and I begged my parents to let me learn to play the piano when I was about sort of 6-7 years old. But I never had singing lessons. I sort of did like musical theatre at school and that kind of thing. And then when I went to university, did a production of West Side Story.
I remember that so clearly. Yeah.
And then one of the tutors sort of said, maybe you should think about taking singing more seriously, because I was terrible at the piano.
And that was quite late on then.
Yeah, so it was, I was like, I think it was like 19, 20 when I had my first singing lesson.
Wow. Yeah.
And then just sort of fell in love with opera from there, really. And fell down the opera rabbit hole.
You found me.
And found Ben.
The opera rabbit.
Around the corner, Guildhall.
Yeah.
Did you have your first singing lesson earlier than 20?
Yes, I think I did. I much the same as Anna. I think opera found me rather than the other way around. I mean, I was a bit of a weird kid. I mean, I found classical music quite early on, even though there's none of it in my family. I can't even remember how it happened. And then I developed a bit of a Beethoven obsession and wanted to be a pianist, but I had a piano teacher that was kind enough to explain to me that I would never, ever be good enough. And she was right, even though it broke my heart at the time. From there, I joined a choir because I heard you got paid for it. And
age
then
14?
I think it was about 12.
Wow.
Or 11 or 12.
Age 12, will you get paid?
Yeah, as a chorister in the church. Okay. It caused a bit of a schism in my family because we're all Catholics. From there, I started having singing lessons at about 14, I guess, after my voice broke. And then I was very lucky to find a teacher who convinced me that I had a lot going on. And I auditioned for various music colleges, settled on the Guildhall.
And that's where you met.
And the rest is history.
We didn't.
No, we didn't.
No. We met in Newcastle.
Yeah. In the Toon. In the Sage in Gateshead. Yeah.
I was going to see an ex-boyfriend of mine perform in the same opera that Ben was in. But then we figured out we were going to be doing British Youth Opera the following summer together. So that kind of...
And I fell in love instantly.
Of course you did.
It took Anna about 7 years of grinding down before she eventually relented.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Yeah, so you were in British Youth Opera together?
Yes. Yeah, 2007. Yeah. Vintage year.
And Anna's still in British Youth Opera.
Tell us about your new role as British Youth Opera ambassador.
So I'm sort of helping British Youth Opera with their future development and sort of shouting about how wonderful they are, basically, because they've been instrumental in just so many opera singers' careers in the UK. Rosemary Joshua, Sarah Tynan, Lucy Crowe, Benedict Nelson,
Anna Patalong,
Chris Maltman,
Ben Johnson, Catherine Broderick.
Yeah, I mean, so the list is
Dave Butt-Phillip.
Dave Butt-Phillip, yeah. I mean, it's just, it's...
instrument.
Yeah,
it's the opportunity, the platform at such a young age where you really need those performance opportunities. That's its role.
Yeah, definitely. And they're
that's
always
it.
sort of, they're always fully staged productions. You're working with professionals in the industry. When we were there, you would get sort of sessions with sort of people at the top of their game. So you really sort of had an insight into the industry. And yeah, I think it's been such a help to so many people. It's it needs to carry on, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, for me, British Youth Opera was a big part of my operatic training.
That's when you performed together. And when was the next time did you perform? Have you performed regularly together?
We did the odd concert,
Yeah.
one with you.
Yeah.
Yes. And at the Natural.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, one at the Natural History Museum, did a bit of
Yeah.
poem. We did a little concert with Tess Marchington down in Guildford.
Yeah.
And
very
then we
nice.
did an oratorio of some description down in
Yeah.
Truro Cathedral,
Yeah.
but no
Nice.
opera at all together until
Until a
few
couple of
weeks
weeks
ago,
ago.
yeah.
Where we are.
Here
at
in the Barbican.
Yeah. So that was, and we weren't actually even meant to be doing it together then.
No.
So Ben came in and saved the day, very last minute, doing the opera Miss Julie by William Ulwin.
With the BBC Symphony
With the
Orchestra.
BBC Symphony.
Mhm.
Zachary Oromo conducting, which was very exciting. And yeah, it was great because it's basically, I mean, there's 4 people in the opera, but it's basically just sort of centered on this relationship between Miss Julie and Jean, who then jumped in to sing. And,
Yeah.
Flew in
Flew
from
in.
Vienna.
I flew in from
Yeah.
Vienna, 48 hours. And I mean, really, I'd been hearing it a lot at home because Anna had been practicing it for a long time. And but it wasn't much help to me because she wasn't singing any of Jean's part.
Do you think because you're a couple and you can connect and as a couple, it was a different process? Like, how was it rehearsing? The intensity
Genuinely
of
makes it harder.
Really?
I think so.
All the reviews have been 5 stars, but always commenting on the chemistry of you as a couple.
Of course, yeah.
Given-
No, I think we achieved it, but I think you have to work a bit harder with someone you're comfortable with. I mean, normally when you're playing opposite a romantic interest on stage, there is a frisson of awkwardness, I think, that you can naturally use to portray that, that new love feel,
Right.
that sort of butterflies in the stomach idea. Anna and I, of course, very comfortable with each other.
But
And
you don't
get butterflies.
I do, of course I do. I just think I'm very good at hiding them. We're extremely both physically and emotionally comfortable with each other. It makes it very, very hard, I think, certainly from my point of view, to generate that frisson of unexplored love.
Yeah, interesting. Did you find some unexplored love?
So, I mean, the thing you have to remember is that we're not playing ourselves on stage. We're playing the characters that are written in the operas. So the relationship between us is it's going to be very different. I think possibly what the critics and audience picked up on, was there is obviously chemistry between us, but it was sort of funneled into a different direction through the characters. What I found interesting was that the opera, there's sort of lots of highs and lows in the story of Miss Julie and Jean. So there's one part that we're kissing and then the other part that sort of beating each other up, basically. It was because we are physically comfortable with each other, you where each other are going to go. Yeah. So I found that much easier, whereas actually the kissing on stage was I found really uncomfortable. Exactly. Stage kissing is that's the thing, and you stage kiss, and then it's but also he's my husband, but also there's
and it would be quite fun to
people watching us, and that I found weird.
Yeah. But it didn't come across as weird at all. The whole thing was
I think that's it as well. I think it was well known in the audience that we were husband and wife. And I think to an extent people see what they want to see.
Yeah.
And they want that to be the case.
And added another layer of excitement for the audience.
I think so, yeah. Some of the critics and a lot of people afterwards said, oh, well, of course they look comfortable on stage because they're husband and wife. And I think people might be surprised to know that actually that was something I had to kind of negotiate to make it seem like it it was a real and new chemistry as opposed to
That's so
people that
interesting,
know each
isn't it? So for that big performance, you flew into Vienna, and that's just shows really your busy schedule. You're touring a lot. You're away a lot. There's a couple, and as a family with Scarlett as well. How do you balance work life, family life?
It's
It's constantly changing.
Yeah.
I mean, every situation is different. At the beginning of the year, Anna was in New Zealand, and I was in Scotland, which I thought was tremendously unfair.
Scarlett was with you in New Zealand.
And it, these things are different. I had to deal with the time difference there, and there are other times when we're unbearably close and yet very far away. I mean, sometimes working in London, one of us will have to stay overnight, or even for a week or so, because it's not possible to get back and forth. The trains don't run late enough, and so on, and that's very difficult. You've been working down in Dorset before when I've been. There are some places which is just not possible to commute from. I mean, as much as possible, we try and follow each other around.
Yeah, which has worked to a certain extent. I mean, it's
you get lucky sometimes and not so much.
But with
others.
getting the same contract or being somewhere,
just being somewhere where it works, or being on and off at the same time.
Yeah,
I mean,
and obviously, sort of, as we were saying earlier, my mum helps a lot with childcare.
We're hugely indebted to Anna's mum.
It's good. I mean,
I love our mums.
Oh, yeah, we do.
My mum's with mine today.
We love Anna's mum.
But with that scheduling and being a parent, you set up Swapra, which is supporting women and parents in opera.
Exactly.
And that's had a big effect, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's, to be honest, it started as a kind of, well, it actually started as a chat in the Barbican, a coffee with some other wonderful women of the industry, and it really has sort of snowballed. I didn't really expect for things to sort of take off in the way they did, but yeah, we sort of had a huge gala which raised some funds for us for sort of projects that we've got planned now that we've got full charity status. And we sort of had a huge conference with representatives from all of the UK opera houses last year.
Making practical changes like putting creches in?
Well,
scheduling.
yeah. So creches prove more difficult, sadly. Although I still hope that one day sort of, the big companies will be able to put something in place.
Yeah, workplaces have been able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there are lots of, as I say, sort of law firms in the city and that kind of thing that, have them as standard, really. So, we hope, future, it might come about. Because obviously, I mean, it's better in the UK than it is in Germany, for instance, where you sort of get your schedule the night before.
How do you even begin with that? I mean,
in fairness, on the continent, they have a completely different rehearsal schedule. They'll rehearse 10:30 to 1:30 and then 5:30, 6:30 till 9:30.
Okay.
Because I remember you were working in Lübeck at one point, and people came up to you and said, "Is it true that you rehearse in the afternoons until 5? How do you pick your kids up from school?"
No, that was in Karlsruhe. That was like one of my first jobs out of college, and one of the women there was just completely baffled by it, just sort of saying, "Well, yeah, how do you pick your kids up?" And at the time, I was like, "I don't have kids. I'm not that old."
But that's the other thing that's revealing about that is that the assumption is that if you're a woman over 30, that you probably do have a family.
Yeah.
Whereas here, it's kind of assumed as just a basic paradigm that you would choose between your career or a family.
Yeah.
If you're a woman. If you're a man, they don't assume the same thing.
Yeah.
And Ben, you've just been in Vienna performing in Benjamin Britten's Midsummer Night's Dream. Britain's been a big theme of your performance.
I've done a lot of Britain. Yeah. I've done, actually, there's not much Britain that I haven't done.
Would you describe yourself as a Britain expert?
No.
Not yet?
No, I mean, I don't know that I'm an expert in anything, really. But it's certainly something I have a lot of experience in. And it's something that I have an affinity with. And I suppose, I think I can say, without risk of conceit, it's something I'm good at.
Yeah, definitely.
And so, so I've done a lot of it, and it's kind of been a common thread throughout my career. Listen to a bit of I've been in the Derbies.
It's my favourite.
Through the port comes the moonshine astray. It tips the guard's cutlass and silvers the smoke. But 'twill die in the dawning of Billy's last day. All is up, and I must stop too.
So being together in the opera industry, what has been, would you say, your greatest challenge in being in the same industry and sharing this life together?
Oh,
Big
I
question.
guess it's the point at which we're both, at the times at which we're both busy. It's
There's no room.
it's sort of managing our time between when we both need to do work and when we both need to have family time, and negotiating that. I think is the hardest bit. We both have a lot of work.
And family time together, not just
Not just
You, Scarlett,
not just
and
one of
Anna,
us. I
Scarlett,
mean, we tend to just divide the day up, and you just get a lot more organised about things. Very nerdy about train times,
Yeah.
and efficient, with your practice.
and
do. I mean,
nerdy about
it's-
CBeebies times as
Yeah,
well.
exactly.
What comes on when.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, every parent says this, but, you do obviously wonder what you did with your day before kids came along, because it's amazing how much you can get done in, a 4-hour window that used to take,
for weeks.
Yeah, exactly.
And lots of bottles of wine.
Yeah. So it's I mean, I think that is right. And obviously, when we're both together, we both work from home, we've got a child, that's all very difficult. But obviously when we're away as well, that's difficult too. And I think every part of it sort of poses its own challenges, when one of us is working and the other one isn't, and sort of is taking the kind of full-time parental responsibility, I suppose you'd say, that can pose its own challenges too, because obviously it is a vocation and it is something we love. And so
I think there's also it might just be the Catholic thing with us both, but I think a lot of parents feel the guilt between balancing work and you always feel like you're not doing enough to either.
Yeah.
And certainly in the early years of having a child, it's another thing I think all parents go through, is that you suddenly find you're not really, you've got so many irons in the fire that it's difficult to support each other.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the main.
But I feel like in terms of careers, like we're both very supportive of each other's.
Yeah. I mean, I
came in and saved a whole concert for Anna.
Wow.
We're going to have to cancel it.
I'm going to hear about that for like the rest of eternity.
And what is the one thing that you'd say you're sort of grateful for throughout this journey? Because it is, like you say, a vocation, and you are lucky in a position to be able to really be properly, successfully having this career. I mean, it's something.
I mean,
people aspire to.
without sounding too disgustingly soppy, like I do feel lucky to have Ben and that we're together, because I do think without the right support in this industry, it can be extremely difficult. And I think we do support each other, although sometimes you have to check in and stuff. We do, and it's great to have someone to sort of bounce ideas off and sort of think, am I thinking about this correctly? Is that right? Was that the right thing to do? Do
you spend quite a bit of time doing that with your roles?
We really do.
Yeah,
We spend a lot of time talking about it, and I think from what I understand, that's unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talk about singing technique. We sing and listen to each other.
Yeah. Give each other little lessons.
Give each other little tips dancing lessons and coaching, but also, also intellectually about roles and things like that. And right down to just the business side of things. We read each other's emails before we send them and check over that we're saying the right things. And I feel, if anything, even more soppy about. I don't think I could be doing this job at all if it were not for
you can share all of that. It's so special, isn't it? With such an understanding of what's needed, of the time that you need, the space, but also that emotional support, because it's such a heightened way of delivering performances through opera.
And there are like huge highs and huge lows as well. And to have someone that really understands you and understands what you're going through, I think is extremely rare. So
it's improved me, I think, as an artist, as a performer.
Being with me.
I really do. I mean, it's also, incredibly,
a critic, but also a sharpness to your ideas and really having that second brain almost.
Exactly.
And it's also worthwhile to have someone that not only appreciates the things you do and what you're trying to do, but will tell you about them and aspects of you as an artist and a performer that you might not otherwise consider. There's always a struggle with working out who it is you're trying to please. In this situation, are you doing it for yourself? Are you doing it for an audience? Are you wanting to get good feedback from critics? What is it that you're trying to achieve? Why are you doing it at all?
There's a bit of everything.
And to have a kind of constant ear on things, a constant eye on things, and it's
measure.
Absolutely. And apart from that, just watching Anna perform has been incredibly invigorating to me.
Watching Anna perform, but also watching you both develop from students, because both your voices have hugely matured, but also grown as maturity as performers, as interpreters of music, as knowledge,
and sort of going into a very different phase, I would say. And it's really nice to sort of have seen that journey, now approaching proper manhood, proper baritone manhood.
Is that you taking different roles? Do you feel like
I'm just starting to dip my toe into slightly heavier repertoire, a little bit by bit, and which also means leaving some repertoire behind. But it's exciting in some ways. It puts you in a different bracket. But again, it's something I couldn't have done without Anna giving me the confidence to kind of
go there,
to move into that territory and do it. I think also it's useful we both have very different working processes. And that's another thing about divvying up our time, is that we both work, and everyone works in very, very different ways and approaches learning roles and learning music in different ways. And obviously it was by necessity with Miss Julie, because Anna had months and months to learn it, and I didn't.
2 days.
2 days. But
I think reading some of the.
I think all that was a distillation of the way that I would normally work anyway. And Anna works very differently when she's learning music to me. But watching the way that those things develop is fascinating.
Yeah, and you learn constantly from each other.
I learn loads. Anna's a much more natural performer and actress than I am, I don't think she ever. I think that's very much true. Yeah.
Cheers, though.
I don't think you consider those things as much as I have to.
So maybe come more naturally.
Yeah.
Whereas Ben can just look at a page of music and sing it, and it's.
So what are the differences in your processes? Is it sort of the time that Anna you spend learning music, and then
I'm just an idiot
about the performance of it? Or?
Yeah, I have to get quite. I've been lucky enough in the last few years to work with a lot of actors, because I've done a lot of modern music and a lot of actors and a lot of theatre directors, and that's given me an insight into how much harder they work than opera singers in how they develop character and how they literally just the physicality of how they will produce something on stage. And that's something I've taken a lot from. And it's also, it's infuriating in some ways and also fascinating to watch that Anna does that without even thinking about it.
Did you realise that, Anna, or was that something that maybe
No, I didn't
Quite
research.
interesting. Yeah. And what would you say what's your process of learning piece of music?
I mean, I think I really sort of, which is, I mean, I think I really have to get into the music, you know, and it takes me a long time, not a long time, but I really need to understand the sort of structure of the music, you know, the keys and, you know, where you're moving to and why it's like going in that direction. Otherwise, you know, I think, you know, Ben singing in a choir probably helped, you know, he's able to pick up music and sight sing.
So I can sing through something once, playing it on the piano.
So what have you got coming up in 2020 that we can look forward to hearing?
Our CD release.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Together.
Yeah.
That is big.
So, yeah, that was the other part of Miss Julie, is that we recorded it, Chandos.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we don't know the release date. It will be about this time next year. It should be out.
Yeah.
Again, available in all good music stores and on iTunes.
And open to develop into an opera, presumably. I mean, that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
It would be just amazing if, you know.
I mean, it's intriguing because usually when a piece hasn't been performed or it's undiscovered or maligned or there's usually a reason. It's usually deficient in some way. I cannot for the life of me understand why this hasn't had more of an outing.
Well, let's have a listen now to a sneak preview of you both singing in Miss Julie with the BBC Symphony Orchestra. Oh, it is so lovely when you sing together. What are your highlights for 2020?
So I am going to be performing Gilda with Opera Holland Park in Rigoletto. So I think there might be a clip of me somewhere singing it. So this is me singing Gilda's first aria, Caro Nome, from Rigoletto.
And then what's your...
I'm trying to think what things I'm allowed to talk about. I'm reviving a piece that I did here and in Ireland, The Second Violinist by Donnacha Dennehy, and amazing Irish composer, and Enda Walsh, amazing Irish writer, playwright.
And will that be performed here at Barbican?
No, it was at the Barbican last year, and it's going to New York, where it will be at the Armory. What else have I got? Some lovely things with some Matthew Passion with Dunedin Consort, my first Mahler 8 in Cheltenham Festival. and some quite exciting stuff later on in the year about which I cannot talk.
On that
But,
note, thank you both very much for being with me today. Thank you for listening to the final episode of the third series of the Tessa Talks To podcast, where I've been chatting to musical couples. Today, I've been with Anna Patalong and Ben Nelson, talking about what music means to them and what goes on behind the scenes in their lives as parents and globe-trotting singers. Join me next time when I'll be starting a new series about what music means to city workers.